Hi, I'm host Eric, and I wanted to follow up on that video I made in class to explain a little bit more about argumentation and what to think about when trying to analyze argumentation. And we're trying to think about cognition as a function of argumentation. So, first of all, when we talk about arguments, a lot of people consider arguments very topic specific and then don't really ever think about them on another level beyond that. So they might say, well, we shouldn't have nuclear waste because we shouldn't have nuclear power because it makes nuclear waste, and nuclear waste lasts a long time, and that's not a good thing. So, having that sort of argument, Mega Bro would say, I'm making the most advanced form of FUM argument, which is his explanation for a reptilian, kind of reptilian thought or priority that is, I think he said it was the self-preserving kind. So, I'm not really sure. I don't remember the exact details of it, but it's called FUM, and it has to do with the reptilian brain and stuff like that. Well, I think that's interesting, but that's topic specific, right? Like, okay, well, at its highest level, it argues for sustainability. That's saying you're arguing what the belief is you're arguing, rather than how you're arguing it or what kind of argument it is. So, what kind of argument it is something that people don't really necessarily think about a lot, but is actually much more important than the specifics of the argument. So, if you're making that kind of an argument that I just made, you are appealing to long-term harms, and you are saying, well, let's take different action to avoid these long-term harms. So, first of all, you can determine right away that it's a predictive argument. And it says, here's a problem in the status quo that I can extrapolate out into the distance and assume it's going to remain unchanged. So, when we're talking about that kind of an argument, one of the weaknesses of it is the black swan response, which is, well, it would appear, I agree, in the status quo, that stuff's a problem for a long time. But that is because that's how it is in the status quo. I mean, when we have problems that are that seem to defy solutions or just defy easy processing, like nuclear waste, they percolate for a while in the human consciousness until some solution arises out of nowhere, which renders the issue irrelevant. I don't have a lot of good examples. I need to gather more, but there have been, changes in science and whatever that basically render whole schools of thought meaningless, because it's not just renders them false; it renders them meaningless. It would be like the best example would be we would do my water solution. Pump seawater to everybody's house. That's it. Put another line of pipes down next to the existing line of pipes. Pump seawater to everybody's house. Cap it at the end. Let the free market take care of the rest. They'll come up with, people sell mini desalinators. The price will come down. Everyone will start getting their fresh water that way. No more water shortage. Bada bing, bada boom. Black swan that kills the gray water solutions market. So, when I talk about a long projecting mechanism argument, or projecting long into the future of the status quo, saying we know how long it takes toxic waste or nuclear waste to get through its half-life cycle in the status quo. We know that, and it's a physical property that it's not going to change. Well, that's true, but it's not a closed system, and we can apply energy towards that problem that would potentially resolve it. So, if you are making that kind of an argument, a sustainability argument, you may or may not be using FUM. It seems like a perfectly good explanation to me. It seemed resonant when I read it. I don't remember all the details of it now, but you are also making a strategic decision. So that is, for me, by far the more meaningful vector, or the more impactful vector on what I'm going to be saying or in a given context. So next, I'd say there are a lot of different ways you can approach argumentation, and they pivot on a couple of different vectors. One, they pivot on time frame. Two, they pivot on magnitude. Three, they pivot on probability. Those things have to do with impacts and what the likely outcomes are going to be. However, the fourth frame they pivot on is binary arguments. The fifth frame they pivot on is ground arguments. And the sixth frame they pivot on is what do you say? I guess you say straight up meta framework arguments, like straight ones, like we should prefer our framework because that kind of argument. So these are the pivot points that we need to think about argumentation is falling around, and depending on the context in which an argument falls, it may have or not have some or all of the various elements that an argument might have potential. And I try to break it down into the Milk Lab system, which says basically that any dispute, any argument is going to follow the same course of it involves a finite and knowable set of combinations of functions and objects that comprise, they can actually successfully represent every argument that can possibly be made in a way that doesn't require you to process things on the topic level. So if the problem that you have about trying to automate something like or computerize, a debater would never get beat by Deep Blue. Never in a million years. Impossible. Unless Milk Lab works. Then we're toast. I'm trying to kill myself. I'm trying to render us second to computers. I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be, once the system's all in place and it starts producing data that I can use to think about something more, I'll be able to identify word like not non-connected word setups. So, for example, with ordinals. So, this thing will have these two words, but with at least two words in between them in a sentence, and that'll be representative of X. I think it's very possible to determine argumentation. A person can have basically a clear understanding of whenever an argument is being made, why one side is winning or losing. Because that's the thing. What people don't want to accept is that it ought to be, and really is, finally, in the end of it, and everything, the single determinant factor on what happens in the universe. Who has the stronger arguments? It's the single determinant factor. If you want to look at the world as something that needs any kind of a change in it, if you want to think of it like that, then the answer is we need to shed the bad arguments. That's what we need to do. Shed the bad arguments. There are a lot of bad arguments floating around. And they are the energy through which the bad time objects are sustained and through which they persist. When we favor, for example, statist arguments, we are providing part of that energy that allows those bad time objects to persist in ways that are harmful to individual human beings in concrete, meaningful, and real ways. So when we think about argumentation, it's fine to have one position or another position, and it's fine to be wrong or be right or whatever. Who cares? The point is, what we want to do is to sit back and say, well, as with everything, it's a matter of where I don't want to be on the losing side. So I'm going to just sort of look here and where all the arguments are. And whoever has the stronger arguments, that's what I'm going to believe. Because to the extent that I believe anything. I mean, you know, I'm not going to attach myself to these opinions or these assertions because there's no purpose in doing so. If I'm advocating for a given end, I shouldn't be attached to those positions because it minimizes my ability to achieve that end. This is necessarily the case because to believe is to consider, to dismiss as legitimate certain sets of arguments. And then there's a second level of detachment as well, which is to say, I might believe certain things, but understand that a responsible belief means, to believe responsibly means that you have the answers answered. That's what it means to believe responsibly. You have the answers answered. So if you want to advocate for something, then you need to have the answers answered in your head. You cannot say, well, here's my belief, and let's see, you're wrong, your answer disagrees with my belief. Well, why am I wrong though? Well, because look, see my belief? It disagrees with yours. Okay, well, so what does that mean? Well, it means, look, everyone's opinion is equal, okay? So neither of us is right or wrong, I guess. No, that's not what it means at all. It means you've got weak sauce arguments and your position will fail in the course of history. As the position of gay marriage has failed. As the position of marijuana criminalization has failed. Why have they failed? They're weak fucking arguments. That's why. They're shitty behavior defended by weak fucking arguments. The only kind of arguments you can defend shitty behavior with. There aren't any good arguments for oppressing people. Sorry, there aren't. And if you bring that weak shit up around here, you're going to get smashed back in your face. And therefore, you're going to improve humanity. That's how humanity gets improved. When arguments do battle with one another, and individual human beings feel embarrassed because their argument got its ass whipped. When that happens, they internalize that feeling. They feel like they got their ass whipped. They don't typically, necessarily, respond as they ought to, which is to adopt the arguments that beat them. It's naturally the thing to do, obviously. You don't want to lose again, do you? So, remember that, you know, people will go, oh, you kind of roll your eyes or whatever, but the reality is all of life truly is argumentation. And I'm saying that in the sense that even if it's positive argumentation, you're talking about like reasons why we work well together. My ex-wife used to ask me, why do you love me? Tell me why you love me, things like that. She wanted me to provide her with reasons why she should feel confident that our relationship was good and that she was happy or something. I guess. I don't quite understand that thing. Tell me reasons why you love me. That I find is confusing. Because, well, I mean, I didn't ever accept this as reality or come to terms with it until recently, I guess. But the fact is, I don't know what love is. I know. I mean, I don't know what that means. And I don't think it means anything. I think it's a sort of a hobbled together kind of overview word that means basically you piss me off less than you don't piss me off. Or something like that. I don't know. Or I have sex with you and you're usually nice to me. I think that's what it means. Or I feel when I enjoy my time together with you, or I don't know what it means. Do you know what it means? Does anybody know what that word means? I love my daughter. I still don't know what it means. I mean, I love her. Meaning what? I panic when I think she's hurt. Is that love? I do that for sure. When I think she's hurt, I panic. I have animal behaviors associated with her that I don't have with other people. I like have these reflexive worries about her, and I never think about it. I never worry about people, but I worry about her, you know, because I'm her father, I guess. And I never want to impose myself on people. And I don't want people to hang out with me if they don't want to hang out with me, for sure. Except my daughter. I want her to hang out with me even if she doesn't want to hang out with me. And I don't feel offended or anything. I enjoy being in her company, I guess. And I don't know exactly if that's enough to call, if that's an adequate description of love. Is that a good definition? It doesn't feel like even a definition at all to me. Anyway, thanks for watching Talking to Famous People. I don't know